Let me bring in on this Meyazagide. Your thoughts on all the players that are present in Tigray right now?
Yeah, I am laughing because it's so sad. It's so sad people have to go such an extra mile to justify the massacre of innocent civilians, the raping and gang raping of innocent kids, girls as young as 4 years old in Tigray are being gang raped, not only by the Amhara militia.
One at a time, please. One at a
not
time.
Only by,
You never condemn 1,000 Amharas killed by TPLF.
not only by Amhara militias, not only by Amhara militia, but also by Eritrean troops and Ethiopian national troops. It's also sad Mr. Zalek is talking about sovereignty while the very government that he's advocating for and supporting and is working for literally invited a foreign country, a foreign enemy, Eritrea, to enter into an Ethiopian territory and kill.
TPLF is working with Egypt.
And
All right,
kill.
one at a time, please. Neamin Zalek, please.
Okay, I will.
Actually, I'm here out of the respect for the media. I am doing a disservice to my people that I'm even talking to a person who is justifying the genocide and the killing of the Tigray people. So it would be a courtesy just to let me finish my point as I was letting you finish your point, all right? You're an old person. You're an old person, and you should have some decorum and manner to let people finish their point when they're making their points. I was listening to you making all those allegations and lies. I listen because that's what adults do. They listen and they respond. So having said that, everything Mr. Zalek presented is completely false. The genocide in Tigray didn't start on November 4th as the Ethiopian regime, as well as people like Mr. Zalek, would have the international community believe. The war started long ago, right after Abiy Ahmed was selected by the EPRDF. He forged a military pact with a neighboring country, Isasaforki, and because of that, they have been working together to wage war against the people of Tigray. The Eritrean government, through its president, have been seen, visiting military camps, participating in all internal affairs of the country. And there was also a report by the European Union warning about a war looming. And this is mainly because they had, evidence showing Tigray being encircled, not only by Eritrean troops, but also by Amhara militia and the Ethiopian National Army. Having said that, what's happening in Tigray is devastating. People do not have access to humanitarian aid. 4.5 million people are starving. They're facing a man-made famine. And this is not just my word. You can look it up on the UN. These are reports from the international organizations.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Do you agree with Roland Marshall when he was saying earlier how there is this age-old problem in Ethiopia of it's difficult to get dialogue started, it's difficult to have dialogue?
Yes, it's very difficult to have a dialogue because you have a regime that is hell-bent on, imposing a unitarist ideology. You have a regime that does not accept the difference people have, like political difference and ethnic, identity difference. The only way for Ethiopia to coexist is through federalism, a federalism that allows people to have the right self-determination and the right self-administration. So as long as, the regime in Addis Ababa doesn't recognize ethnic nationalities' right self-determination, dialogue is impossible. But the Tigray government has been calling for an inclusive national dialogue through which all political parties in the country would come together and have a dialogue and decide on the future of their own respective people. But when you have people that, call an entire region extremist only because we want it to be administered by people that speak our language, people that are from our region, how can you have a dialogue with these people? And It's because we have been pushing for an inclusive dialogue that we're being exterminated in the dark.
A week ago, the state-appointed Ethiopian Human Rights Commission spoke of an unnamed armed group taking control of an entire county in the same. This is not in Tigray, but in the western Benishangul Gumuz region. It's the same area that's home to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project. And again, I want to put it to you, Henok Gabbisa. You heard Roland Marshall talk about the fact that you have this sort of a knock-on effect from what's happening in one region, happening in another. At this point in time, how do you get everybody around the table?
This is actually the chance of bringing everybody back to the drawing board again is already a gone opportunity from what I see. The ship has already sailed a day or two ago because obviously the Prime Minister and his administration had decided to label and brand the Tigray Defense Force and the Oromo Liberation Army as terrorist groups. So once you make that legal naming, it'll be difficult to sit down at the table. So that's going to be a tough uphill battle that has to be known. To your question about the chance of dialogue, national dialogue, the Prime Minister himself had decided to just move away from that dialogue. Number two, I have been really listening to a very painful narrative from our brother Neamin Zellaki about some of the points with regard to the Amara militia and related things. If you allow me to say a quick word about that. First of all, the war in Tigray did not start on November 4. This is a war that has been in the making for the last 2 years. The ideological battle started already in other regions, and Abiy himself was preparing, planning, coordinating, and mobilizing his forces from inside and from outside. And he was looking for the right and appropriate time. He was looking for the right immediate cause, which himself was part of. So that had to be known. And second of all, in the history of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed and people like our brother Neamin Zellaki are the only one who invite foreign force to occupy the land of their own country and to take part in egregious violation of human rights, including rape against our mothers, our sisters. And that's a tragedy to watch. There can be whatever kind of political differences in the country, but that could have been resolved somehow within the cultural framework of the country. Number two, Neamin Zellaki spoke about secessionists. Probably Mr. Zellaki might not have the legal knowledge or the constitutional knowledge of the country. If he goes back and refers to the Constitution of Ethiopia, Article 39, the right to self-determination, including secession, depending on how procedurally it was followed, is a fundamental constitutional right that should not even be derogated during the state of emergency.
So what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting, henol gabbisa, that Ethiopia could be headed for a breakup like the former Yugoslavia?
All the facts and evidences suggest that Ethiopia is on a clear path to a violent dissolution.
Is that what you want?
Is this what we want? That's not what we want. First of all, the people of Ethiopia, including different ethnic groups, should be asked what is it that they want in the country. Never in the political history of Ethiopia had anyone been either through referendum or election asked about the political destiny. We were expecting that this current election, before everything went down the hill, we were expecting that it's going to serve the purpose of some kind of referendum, not referendum in the hardcore that we know it, but to choose between the force that believes in restoring the monarchical politics, and either to choose between the force that believes in multicultural and multinational federalism. Once Abiy knew how the political discourse was being framed, he threw into jail Jawar Mohammed, Bakale Garba, and OLF political leaders. So the chance of using this election as some kind of settlement is gone. And next to that, even outside of election, the possibility of dialogue, as I mentioned,
we're running short on time, and I just want to, before we go, I just want to bring up for our viewers.
Debate. I mean, I would not call it a debate. The same people who have worked to destabilize Ethiopia are given ample opportunity, and we don't get enough
Unfortunately,
time. Please,
unfortunately, Neamin Zellaki, we're running short on time. I just want to